Hey, it's Alex. Doing another Alex James Hislop diary entry. It's a Zoom meeting ID 948-898-276. Find others to formate your guides are asking for the light forward light. Setting it was indicating light to do what means your guys need in regards to this Alex James Hislop diary entry. February 17th, 2019. The way it means your guys needed. But for the teams, it means for guys needed to be protected. The way it means for guys needed. But for the word teams to be protected, the way it guys needed. Right, the word centers that means you guys needed to be protected. That means you guys needed. Matter of the communications to be protected. That means you guys needed. There was something that happened to me today, and within all the mix, there's a lot of stuff happening in my process at times, and there's some stuff that happens, and it's sometimes difficult to describe. At times, I've been psychically attacked and spiritually attacked, and I've been on this sort of run where we talk about the event and that sort of thing. A new event, you type it on YouTube, you look it up, and it has to do with like certain kind of spiritual energies and moving upwards. And there's many different, there is different kinds. There's different kinds, and on this planet Earth, there's different teams in regards to it. Now, a lot of them will say and take a look at some of the stuff that's happened, and say this is not what we're trying to go for. Some of us are like, some of this is totally different. And some of the stuff that he does, my belief work, that sort of stuff, communications, that sort of thing, creation. I do certain kinds of creation at times. There's also a lot of different discussions about large topics like beginnings, endings, origins, stuff like that, and a lot of different things. And it isn't so simple as that. It is a bit of a line. And when people take a look at it, they're like, okay, but there's something up here. There's still something up. Yeah, there is. Spiritually, I'm somewhat of a powerhouse where my spirit guides indicated. I don't know what that means. And people are like, oh, well, that sounds a little bit, sounds a little bit full of yourself, Alex. And that's a little bit of an open channeling spirit. And you know what? With this friggin' hack, it's not meant like that. What I'm told is that spiritually I do affect things behind the scenes, and it's not just me in regards to certain people on this physical planet Earth, in multiple kinds of ways, in ways where you're moving upwards in a certain kind of vibration, and you're looking down in certain situations and able to affect certain things like that of a certain kind of spirit that's able to influence certain situations in large ways. Now, you guys dealing with the one hand talking, the other hand not, that sort of thing. Say what you will, but that's one of the reasons that's been said to me. Now, I don't fully know if that's the case, and if it isn't the case, that's sure as shit going to be an interesting conversation someday. I'm fairly certain it's going to be like, yeah, this guy, to the future or the past, because sure as shit can't be the present. Is that going to be it? The present's going to be sitting there saying, really? Is that what it's going to be? Anyway, there's anyway, it's difficult to describe to some of the viewers in regards to some of the stuff that happens behind the scenes spiritually. I'm a psychic. I speak to spirits, and I do mechanisms down here and things that other people might not be doing. And I know that some people may look at that and say, oh, well, are you sure? Like, because that's really, there is that kind of feeling at times when you hear someone say like, oh, I might be powerful spiritually behind the scenes. And it's like, it's one of those things that's like, okay, well, give me kind of a break. I mean, it kind of feels like that to a certain extent, but it's one of those things that, open channeling, speaking in my mind, different kinds of communications too, telepathy. And, from what I understand is that, I have affected certain things behind the scenes spiritually to a certain extent. I'm telling the truth in regards to what's told to me. Whether that's the case or not remains to be seen to a certain degree. That's actually true. Based on what I know, I don't fully know for what's acceptable. I do have tells, and I do have, myriads of different confirmations in certain kinds of ways. But, I can't, it's difficult to fully say that we all have that power, because that in and of itself is quite powerful. And I would like to say it and have said it and do say it. And there is spirits out there that do sort of make themselves known in certain ways to say, yeah, you know what? Well, regardless, in certain kinds of ways, we do have a certain kind of power just by being in whatever other dimensional existence it is that we coincide in. In another dimensional, ghosts have power. There is being a certain kind of ghost spirit is powerful. certain kinds of existences, dimensional existences. And some people may laugh at it and scoff at it, but if they knew some of the power that they had, they'd be like, whoa, okay, that is, and I mean, you have access to be able to speak to people who can see you as a ghost. So that sort of understanding and that sort of power, that comes with, some people view it as, with great power comes responsibility, but some people don't view it that way at all. Some people view it in a different kind of fashion. And some of the stuff I've been dealing with at times has kind of felt like, some of the spirits, anti-camp sort of stuff has felt like in, heaven sort of thing. It's like, it's high up. I think, I don't know. You tell me. And, I get it. Aiming it? No, I'm not trying to aim it. Remember, I'm not, again, it's one of those sort of things where anti-camp spirits at times, anti-camp spirits, what's anti-camp spirits? Certain spirits, imagine if certain spirits hang around you at times, try to work against you at times. Negative spirits exist. I think in spiritual writings, we've seen writings where it lets know that the negative spirits exist, just as there is positivity. A lot of spiritual writings out there let know of, kindness, care, compassion, love your brother, that sort of thing, look at it from the other perspective. And I think that at times I am sort of, mingling with spirits that are from different kinds of existences where, a brawny, smart too, tough. So I don't know, but I think it is like one of those things where I'm like, okay, so, I couldn't imagine myself ever, being in that mix to a certain extent. So I think something happened along the way where everyone said, you know what, I think I can tag along in this process to a certain extent. And I'm asking for my main spirit guides clarifications and information regarding that. Now, with that being said, I think some of the stuff that's been lumped and said in regards to it, because partially what happened tonight was that sort of let know that just because people are combined with me doesn't mean that they deserve to be attacked, doesn't mean I deserve to be attacked. I mean, and that sort of thing where it's like certain spirits who are maybe pretending to be me behind the scenes, just getting pin-cushioned and attacked in regards to some bull crap over nothing. No, it's unfair in such a degree where it's like, listen, this can't be considered. And for multiple reasons, because we've gone, different directions at times. Doppelgangers is another sort of thing. If you have a certain spirit who's protecting you in a certain kind of way, but there's also other kinds that aren't necessarily sanctioned. But either way, there is a certain kind of unfairness that has happened at times, attacked and harmed to a certain degree. I'm having psychological defense to be protected. You guys need it's one of the themes today. It's the 17th, February 17th, 2019. You may ask, so how is psychological even affected by certain spirits? Well, you mean take a look at you as a physical or another dimensional. So you think of it in regards to how you feel and what you feel, spiritual stimuli. The key things, you think about what are the key things that you can experience. And from my point of view, and as a person who wasn't psychic at a certain point in time for what's acceptable earlier on, I could sort of take a look at it and say, okay, thoughts, mind, speak in your mind. You can hear that voice when you speak in your mind. What is that? You can do things in your mind. You just start speaking in your mind and saying, I know some people kind of, say like they hear me when they're watching the content, but when you actually take a look at it, when you actually see it, when you actually try it out, you're like, what is that stimuli? It's not really fully explained in science. It says that the mind is there. It's part of mentality. But what is that infrastructure? Does that exist? Is it just a figment of our imagination? How does that exist? What would happen if somebody wasn't able to speak in their mind? What would we call that? And what would that be considered in the physical, to a certain extent? And some people say, look at, okay, well, that means is there something wrong with you? Well, but what exactly is wrong with you that causes that? And it's a spiritual thing. It is, because the mind, it exists for real, and that's the thing. If it's certain spirits have attacked me tonight, I feel to a certain extent. I have felt myself get attacked in multiple ways. In multiple ways. One of which is my right leg. I felt sort of physical stimuli. Something happened in regards to my right leg, and I am asking for assistance and protection in regards to it. But other things as well. I went. I'll let know of it what happened. But one of those things today is so it's one of those things that you can look at. The other things, mentality. Thoughts. Thoughts. What are thoughts? You doing a math problem. There's a mechanism to it. As a psychic, I've discerned more than what we usually are able, I think, to utilize with those mechanisms. I've felt those mechanisms be moved around. I have felt those mechanisms spiritually. You think about other bodies in spiritual research. Etheric, emotional body, you feel emotions. That's one of those things. It's one of those keys. It's there for a reason. Love being a key thing in life, right? It's there. You could talk about Valentine's Day and love, and you would ask me, what's the answer to life? I mean, there's even some average Joes that aren't psychic to be like, love. I mean, it's a good answer. It's there. It's so there that that it's palpable, and even a holiday. But it's literally, I mean, you take a look at near-death experience research, and they speak about it even more. And the accounts themselves talk about feeling love, a lot of love. So, I mean, what is all that? What does that say? What does that mean? A lot of physicals on this physical planet Earth, in regards to near-death experience accounts, have felt positive experiences, a myriad, most of which have been positive, decent. And that's the beauty of it. It's the brilliance of it. And that would be, and that's, and I'm adding for the near-death experience communities that makes us need to be protected. But it's one of those things where there's other things too, urges, energies. You get a bad feeling not to go down this path. You're like, you know what, I'm just gonna go down here and get this, like, get the heebie-jeebies, that sort of thing. Get hairs stand up on the back of your neck. There is a real thing in regards to that, a stimuli, spiritual stimuli that happens. The hair on the back of your neck is getting. There's something that happens that causes it to raise up and feel that way. You feel those stimuli for a reason, not for nothing. Ghosts, paranormal, what exactly is that? Once again, it's another spiritual factor. There's myriads of stories, ghost stories out there that exist to a certain extent that lets us know that there is real stuff happening. At times they've let me know that maybe there was a certain kind of ghost element that has happened in regards to me. I don't know what fully has happened, but I did sort of think of the light right now, but I didn't know if I wanted to do that. And if that's the case, then, Alex, then there's nothing else to say. There is something else to say if that's what they did. And there was a reason. That's an open channeling spirit saying it. Yep, that is an open channeling spirit saying this. He got attacked tonight. He did. And beforehand, you guys might look at it and say it's not, but it was to him. And this is the case of this. That stuff is to him. Yeah, some of it, the stuff that makes you guys indicated anyway. And someone was trying to heighten it behind the scenes. I think some of the some negative spirits, and I don't even want to say negative spirits. Certain spirits, no, I don't even want to say immorality. Like, that's also it. I mean, I'm after for immorality to be vindicated in this bullshit that means for God's sake, excuse my language. I'm after the language that makes us need to be blanked in regards to this content that makes us need, the way it makes us need. And I'm asking for the information that makes us need to be embedded on this information the way Mr. Guys indicated. This is Alex James Hislop and others from Mr. Guys saying this, the way Mr. Guys indicated. I have the content creations that Mr. Guys need that are currently happening, and then the news outlets that Mr. Guys needed to be protected, the Mr. Guys indicated. I'm advocating for those who got psychologically turned in regards to what Mr. Guys needed to be clarified, for the informational overlap to be clarified around those who Mr. Guys needed, when Mr. Guys needed. There was something that was said not too long ago, so I don't know if I should say it, but there is something that I can say, and this is the thing of this. That is a lot. I mean, come on. I mean, this is the thing of this. You don't know why it is. I pulled what Mr. Guys indicated him. Okay. Pulling things from the setting itself spiritually might be doing things behind the scenes. It's that sort of thing. But one of the things is, so you think about those mechanisms. Now you think about emotions. When you get angry, when you feel those emotions, emotions can be a willful endeavor. It can be, it is, I think, a willful endeavor at times. Meaning that I've learned how to, I've learned that emotions, I've been sort of partially empathic. Feeling emotions from spirits around me at times, being able to promote those emotions. And I've sort of discerned the difference between creating those emotions and feeling those emotions. And I think a lot of our emotions at times, there's an emotion center that doesn't feel that way. But once you become empathic, you're in a certain kind of way, you're able to feel that is potentially spiritual influencing, in some of which is in a decent way. You feel happy, you feel good, you feel loving energies, you feel great. You ever fall in love? You ever feel like that sort of stuff, that stimuli? That's your letting know that stuff is potentially real. It's not just anger. It's not just upsetness. It's just at times it's one of the easier things because we've been, irritated at times down here. We have felt that irritation, that upsetness. And just to think of it this way is that there might be spirits who are going through things behind the scenes who are able to feel that way. And having an outlet is needed to be able to vent some of that stuff. Having that content creation, that content to be able to go in there, have a violent video game, to vent aggression and that sort of thing is needed greatly. Especially in ways which there can be a realism element to it. Of course, desensitization matters, but there's also that sort of thing that happens where I think we can feng shui desensitization in a certain way. So I've sort of noticed that you can be influenced in a certain way. And I've noticed it in more extreme ways too, where behind the scenes, if I'm feeling a certain kind of, an energy and it does affect me to a certain degree, it affects my mentality, it affects my, my thoughts and things like that, that I couldn't imagine what the other layers, that I'm able to discern at times feel behind the scenes in ways where they might be, going and doing something totally different than what they're, thought to be supposed to be doing, whatever it is, or, maybe not. But either way, there is that sort of thing I think that exists in a certain kind of fashion. I am asking for clarifications and reputational defense in regards to the influencees and influencers that means guys needed, the way these guys needed. I don't think the blame should go on them. Some of them are just doing their damn job, and within the confines of some of this stuff, there is spiritual battle that takes place. Alex walking, somewhere where there's a certain war taking place. I mean, Alex even said it. There is open channeling spirit, and there is battle that happens at times. Spirits do fight, but some of it isn't. In the mix, there's been targetings, and that's the case of this. This is the real truth. Yes, in multiple kinds of ways, some of which has been decent, some of which has not. And this is the crazy thing of it, is that as I move upwards, it's like, I remember when I was, down below, located more below, and I remember some of those targetings weren't necessarily okay to a certain degree. That thing being lost, and when we get up top, we're just like, yeah, that's, that's not nearly as bad as it could be, and that's the scary thing of it. But, we're still sitting here saying it's still that sort of stuff that somebody would not find okay. Some of that stuff that's way, way over the line. And, I don't know what to tell you about it, but that's really it. So yeah, at times I felt psychologicals be affected. That's one of the ways that psychologicals can happen, influencing, emotions, thought implantation. You ever have a quick thought that then you ever feel like you want to say something? That urge to say something. I'm not looking at those spirits. I'm saying that it exists. So we need to explain it to certain spirits, beings, people that don't fully know what is happening spiritually around them at times for what's acceptable. I'm not saying they don't know in other dimensional sort of ways. I am saying that there is a certain kind of innocent element in regards to some of them that don't fully know about certain things. And some of the other dimensionals don't fully know at times for what's acceptable. So what happened to me tonight, what happened to me tonight was, three things basically. This is my day off. Day off. What do you mean day off? Well, I write down psychic activity. I'm writing my book. I'm writing certain things. I'm writing a website. I have multiple websites on the go. I'm doing certain things in regards to advocations, defending certain spirits at times. I do advocations, testifications, disclaimers, that sort of thing. I found it beneficial in regards to doing an advocation in regards to certain spirits and how we can protect. Those three things should be vindicated. I'm for testifications, disclaimers, and advocations to be protected. When it's guides indicate, I'm for clarifications to be protected. When it's just four things, clarifications doesn't deserve to be harmed either. I don't know. It's like the really shit into the stick of the group. Maybe I don't know. At times it can feel that way. I'm going with what Mr. Guides indicated regarding it, though, and in letting know that there is negativity out there, I'm really wishing that there not be this sort of impressment, this negativity in regards to certain things. And yeah, certain people look at past and some people look at future. And I'm sorry, I don't think this whole planet should be based off of, it really does matter who we are currently. And yeah, and I know that people are out there saying no, but our past still do matter. It both matter. There's groups of people who know what they want to be in certain kinds of ways. It's a difficult situation because there's planets out there that look at their past and say, we still want to be okay. And there's planets who look at their past and say, listen, as much as I care about history, as much as I care about who we are and care where we came from, okay, we still want to be okay, It's the sort of thing that's existed at times. And you take a look at planet Earth, and at times we've been brimstone. I'm not saying there isn't, it's one of those things where you look at conflict and it sticks out, it stands out, right? Well, that's a part of it. But, you take a look at peace, and not necessarily so, but there's large chunks of peace on this planet. Sure there is. Yeah, Babylon at times was peaceful, greatly peaceful. No matter for Babylon to be protected, these guys indicated. You don't know why. Well, I was worried that there was going to be... I was just worried there. And yeah, so there's that sort of stuff that exists where, at times when I'm talking, I have been upset. I have been chirpy. I have been at times even disrespectful. But, in the manners, you stack together what I've done in the physical as Alex James Hislop, I don't know, man. Like, no, in this life is Alex James Hislop, February 44. This is the thing of this. I came up with a certain kind of call word in regards to my physical now perspective, when I was, what's fully defined by me in spirit guides, but it's more than that too. It's going to be a reference later on when I pass on. When I'm a spirit, wherever I end up, that Main Guides indicate. It's my perspective that Main Guides indicated. And right now, I feel like at times it's been attacked in multiple ways beforehand, before this. And that's what's, interesting about it is, there was said to be something, maybe it wasn't at the time. So, hey, I don't know how that's affected too. And, maybe I've been pissed, maybe I'm upsetting certain kinds of, and there's been times where I have felt spiritually attacked in ways where I felt my perspective be, pulled from me. And, I can't, I can talk, I can still do that in coherency, but I know that a certain perspective for myself that whatever we are, that consciousness get changed in a certain kind of way where I feel like I've been attacked, and I'm like, am I okay spiritually behind the scenes? And the answer at times has been no, and tonight has been definitely not tonight. And it was after, mainly when you tell your story here. My story was that today I did 3 things. So one of the things I did was I watched Attila Battle Angel, great movie. I put up an advocation for it for a while. I did multiple advocations in the light to protect the Castro etc. Moments regrets. I watched it. It was amazing. While I watched it, there was multiple themes. It felt like it got a little bit heightened. There was some heightened stuff that happened, and it's not new or exclusive. There's been times when I go to the movie theater and I feel this live perspective around me. I've talked about it in past videos, this heightenedness that whatever the hell's happened, I'm in a certain spot where spiritually I feel like there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes. It's been themes at times in my process where when I watch content experiences that the creation of it is affected at times. I'm wondering, regardless of the time variable, if that is the case, pending on being let know that I might be watching it, regardless of if I was going to watch it or not. Of course, there is that variable that has to do with others watching it through my process as well. As not so, and that being the deciding factor in regards to things affected pertaining to content and content experiences. Certain content experiences being affected by way of how we interact with it spiritually. Imagine that there's multiple layers to a certain kind of content. Like you watch, imagine if there was 30 or 40 or 50 or hundreds of versions of the physical movies that you watch in a spiritual sort of way, and that when you sort of interact with it, that you could affect those sort of things depending on who you are. Imagine a famous person watching a certain content experience and them just affecting certain things that are created behind the scenes in regards to certain movies. And this happens with some of which happens with regular people too. You could have your own versions of it too. You get back, you pass on, you take a look at your other dimensional selves. If you do have that sort of thing, some of you might do, and some of you might not. And it's not just in regards to Earth. I'm talking about physical Earth. I'm talking about others too. The way you guys indicate me, there's that sort of thing where you watch a movie and you might have your own version. You might have been a director in regards to your own version of it. Why? Because you have the tools to be able to do that in a certain dimensional existence where you are able to do that. You take a look at it, you're like, yeah, if I had that in the physical, I'd create my own freaking movies too. For freaking sake. This is the real truth. That's what's awesome about it in regards to some of them for what's acceptable. I don't want to step on any toes copyright-ish. I'm just saying, there is stuff I think potentially like that. Maybe some of it is sanctioned, maybe some of it isn't. I don't know, for what's acceptable. Either way, I think, it's one of those things. Of course, there is also process specific sometimes brought in. For example, when you talk about certain kinds of stances and features like that of facial expression, stuff that hangs below the surface, being tells of bigger things of life themes and not so. That sort of thing where you see a face and it's sort of, you see somebody who has an expression on their face at times. And that expression it can be a tell, but it also might not be. It might be a smoke and mirrors. It might be a tell in regards to someone else's process. There is things like that too, I think, to a certain extent. And that tell is like you see someone kind of scowling at times. I mean, I don't know if it doesn't always fully mean that they're angry. It might mean that they're happy and someone's trying to throw a smoke and mirrors up. I think there is that sort of stuff too, to a certain extent. And what do you mean expressions? Well, there's tells that other beings at times and other dimensional selves have channeled through and shaped your process in how you look in the physical, how you look in the other dimensional, how you look in regards to that sort of stuff. I'm advocating for Archon to be protected in the ways that's needed. I'm advocating for the physicals that makes us needed to be protected in the ways that's needed. Okay. But that was the problem with all this. That was the thing of this. You understand that? But I am advocating for those that makes us needed to be saved the way it's needed. Anyway, and there's been things like that where other dimensional selves can impact and affect demeanor and things like that. there was a lot of themes in the movie, you know, one of which had to do with certain kind of symbolics. In the movie specifically, I'm wondering if there was themes of the fall. The symbolics are there at times, although I didn't see too many tells throughout the movie for what's acceptable, for the exception of the core themes, you know, that fall in this, you know, in this instance, and what I'm referring to towards being a spiritual sort of fall, you know, still mending. And one of the core themes was this sort of higher up above city, and then these cities falling, sort of, and this one last city being a vestige. So it might not be classically in regards to the fall, because I think there's many different cities up above that survived. But if it is that sort of metaphorical in regards to the cities that did survive in regards to the falls, that makes guys indicated, then I think that it is, you know, somewhat symbolic. I mean, I think to a certain degree. I think that it's really good. And I'm asking for clarifications regarding that. I mean, it's that sort of stuff where you can say things and affect things behind the scenes, but those safeguards in play to keep things safe to a certain degree. And it, you know, if not be, we definitely need certain things like that to be able to contemplate, to be able to discuss, to be able to discern, to be able to speak, you know, thought. You know, yeah, well, I'm asking for thought and reason to be protected. It means it has negative. I'm specifically asking for those science teams that means it has negative who are trying to back that up to be protected. It means it has negative, you know? Different. Okay, so if it's different, then I'm not supposed to be here then. It might be. Okay, so that's what that means. That's what that means, Alex. You don't know why we do it this way. There's also this sort of idea of stuff happening at times. And I remember this moment where I wanted to make sure I acted a certain way. If there's any other physicals that emerge on this physical planet that means guys indicated and are emerging and have emerged, I want to treat it with care, compassion, and kindness, respect. You know, one of those things where somebody, you know, advocates for, you know, well, for certain, you know, themes and concepts. If you look at my videos, you'll find it. It's going to be there. It's going to be there on certain websites. It's going to be let know. And if you ever do it in regards to your main spirit guides, your main camp, your main guides, that sort of thing, you know, for those that main guides indicated to do, you know, what your main spirit guides indicated, it's one of those things where people sometimes take a look at it, and you know, it will. Well, I don't know if it will. I don't understand. I don't know. Well, they take a look at it and they end up deciding. But it's one of those things where I want to approach it with kindness, care, and compassion, with respect, not with upsetness or harm or anger or that sort of thing. Yeah, another thing that's been talked about at times in this process is the spawning of mechanisms and overlaps at times in regards to viewing content experiences, especially in regards to certain kinds of interactions and communications in regards to, you know, Hollywood and Hollywood movies and famous people content, you know, that sort of stuff. And that sort of stuff really does matter. You get to a certain point where, okay, so that would be why. I mean, and it's one of those things where it's like, okay, certain mechanisms and spiritual mechanisms. Imagine someone can create new thought mechanisms or create different kinds of you know, emotion structures or things like that. And I'm not for my mechanisms to be protected. I'm not for spiritual mechanisms to be protected. It's more than that too. There's sometimes life within some of those mechanisms, things like that. And where they then go to certain kind of, you know, certain kind of mechanisms are created and then go into certain another spot for reasons, for not just reasons of people jumping in or doing certain things, but by way of sometimes just being like, hey, this can be useful in this process. You're done watching the movie, Alex. I mean, this is also it. I mean, there's things like that. There's also business in the mix and a bunch of other shit too. Excuse my language. I'm not for the language that means that's needed to be in regards to this content pertaining to this Alex James Hislop diary entry, February 17, 2019. To be blanked out, that makes you guys needed the way makes you guys needed. I'm having for so yeah, I did that, and it was already. So I got home and I felt there was some movement, some changes, and I felt like at times I felt sort of like, yeah, I'm affecting things behind the scenes to a certain degree, but there's still that overlap stuff. I said it out there. I defended them. There's the overlap stuff that's decent, that's been doing its thing. There's been the fold spirits that's been letting know, been doing its thing. There's been the anti-camp stuff. It's still there. I'm still holding down for certain I'm still holding down for certain kinds of immorality rights, anti-camp rights, that sort of stuff. There's multiple different reasons, and there's a myriad of other things too. I mean, this is the thing of this. There's a slew of different things. Light, far light, setting noise, guys, and let know of those things the way we guys need, the way we guys need. I'm not for the lights that we guys need, and the shadows that we guys need to be opened up where remains for guys indicated in regards to Earth and others to find remains for guys. The way we guys indicated. Some of those, you know, there's ghosts out there. You know, some people say, you know, go to the light. You know, that's my sort of safe, you know, place to go, and I wish I could be able to speak to some of the shadow at times, you know, in regards to those that means guys need the way means guys need to be able to understand that. It's one of those things it's a disparity. There is a disparity there. You know it. There is darks out there that it's a good spot. There was those dark spots in near-death experience research where it's more of a solitude at times, and it was nice. It was almost like a comfort, a certain kind of well, I don't know if detachment's the word, but it's almost like a therapeutic at times for some of it. So yeah, I mean, that's a let know that not, it's not all, just, light and, the dimensional afterlife. It's other stuff too. Talk about other dimensions. We talk about light, dark, but there's other dimensions too. And I'm advocating for those other dimensional settings that means you guys need to be protected. The ways your guides indicated. So there was that. And then I played Apex Legends, this awesome video game. And I felt like there was this spiritual stuff that was happening behind the scenes, a bit of back and forth gaming and, the spirit games. There is spiritual gamers, man. You play a video game, there's a bunch of spirituality people playing video games with you. A bunch of other stuff too. And, some of which is bad. I'm advocating for the video game industry. So that means you guys need to be protected. That means you guys negated. I think it's a decent one. I'll throw that out there. I think it's decent. With that being said, it's not always, negative things being thrown up. At times, though, I need to be able to say it, and that's why, Alex, I'm advocating for psychological defense to be protected. That means you guys need to for let knows and information in regards to psychological defense. That means you guys need to win. You guys need it. Alrighty then. All right, so that would be why. Like, this was the real case of this. You don't know why. You don't know why. You know what that means? Not fully, but for what's acceptable. That right there, you sound to hear his voice. There's an open channeling spirit saying it. There is that sort of things at times. And you know what? At what point can we not? And that was the thing of this. And that was it. And I'm out for my eyes to be protected. I mean, so guys indicated. A little darkness in the eyes at times, for freak's sake. There's other dimensional, sort of capacity, and passengers at times in regards to your own body for what's acceptable. And, there is extremes and not extremes. There's regular folk and not necessarily so anymore, or whatever ever was. I don't know. I think there is at times multiple. I think it's a mixed bag. One of the things I wanted to reiterate, though, is a safety and letting know in regards to that. Alex James Hislop and others from Answer Guides wants you to know that you choose what you choose. I'm not trying to harm you. I'm not trying to force you into, choosing the path of, either, going upwards or migrating or having to leave or that sort of thing. This spiritual mending that's happening behind the scenes is a little more complicated than some people think. I mean, some people, maybe it is not necessarily as complicated as I think it is, but for some, it is fairly complicated. I mean, and I'm asking for simplicity to be protected. Women's Guide Syndicates, I want it to be simple. I want it to be simplistic, and simplistic for a reason. Simplistic at the very least in understanding what happened to me. So if there's chunks of life that I have to wait for, and it's that sort of thing, we'll be better off in revealing it right here. Trust me, there's that sort of stuff. I believe in it. I care about it. But at the same time, I need to understand and I need to know. And if there's any falsehoods in the mix, truth needs to be understood. It needs to be there. There's a groups of people out there that in an afterlife review, we need to understand what has happened to us. And I'm one of those people who want to understand in an honest sort of way. I don't want to go full truth because I think there's some truths that need to be feng shuied in a certain kind of way. I just feel that way. That is how I feel. I know there's other things like there is ways to do it. And I appreciate it because I want to, I hear it. That is the truth. I hear it. Anyway, ring-a-ding-ding. Isn't the ring-a-ding-ding that it ever was for me. Not for me. My ring-a-ding-ding is the story. There's a moment in my life where I was near a tree. I remember going ring-a-ding-ding, ring-a-ding-ding. I just, I kind of, I was just, I lost it a bit. And there just all of a sudden there was a bunch of different people around me. And, if I ever do it that day, there's some people that say, I might come around. Maybe. I mean, that's also it. I'm for keys in regards to those that means you guys need, women, you guys need to be the body. Be the body. Be the body, Alex. Anyway, the third thing that happened, so I played that and something happened. I was like, okay, I thought maybe I got attacked or something or whatever the hell had happened. I don't know what happened. I didn't fully know. They weren't fully letting know. It was said that I got attacked in a certain kind of way, and I did. I did get attacked in a certain kind of way. No, that's not what I'm looking at it from. It is what it is. Either way, I decided to go on the, I live by a lake, right? Lake Simcoe. I'm headed for Lake Simcoe to be protected. You guys need it. And I know that 2, 3, what was it? Yeah, yesterday. I went on the lake yesterday. Jesus. Yeah, it was yesterday. I went on the lake, and as soon as I got to, like, you know, this certain part of the lake, I walked, I don't know, it was like half a mile that, out in the lake. And as soon as I got there, I felt spiritually like, oh, this is without certain kind of power outlets near me. This is, you know, being able to, you know, a bunch of different things, you know, just open space to be able to land, you know, for what's acceptable. Obviously, there's spiritual things there and that sort of stuff. There's a whole culture on the ice. You got that whole flat land. You know, I know there's cities in the sky. I'm sorry about the airplanes at times. We don't mean to be bastards about things. You know, I know there is certain spirits and spirit cities potentially on Earth, and they exist. Air cities, man. No matter the cities of the air that makes you guys need to be protected. That makes you guys need. This is the kind of stuff that some people may look at and say, "What, really?" But when you think about it, where spirits could be around, there could be thousands of spirits, tens of thousands, millions, billions at times. There's told that there could be billions or even trillions at times. Certain people, famous people especially. Some of them. Then when those means you guys indicate, not all of them. Some famous people don't have that many people around them. For first words, except this is the truth of it. There are some. You know, this is the thing of this, and I wouldn't, man. Like, that's the thing of it. But doing that sort of route is not the way. Trust me. Getting more people over here, long game is ringing its bell right now, saying it. No. That would be the yeah. It's like you're not supposed to be saying it, and that's true. Anyway, the idea here is that you know, that there is things atmospherics that exist around you know, physicals and other dimensionals in multiple kinds of ways, and one of which has to do with the sky, one of which has to do with water, bodies of water. You think there's ocean, you know, cities and, you know, other spiritual dimensions that exist in the oceans? Of course there is. Look how much ocean there is on Earth. Isn't it more ocean than land? I mean, this is what's awesome about it to a certain extent. Well, I don't know what the exact land mass is and what it is actually located. I think there might be more land. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I got to look that one up. I'll look it up after. But either way, you know, it's one of those things that they do matter. Their opinions matter. Water worlds, you know, exist to a certain extent. And water nations exist, too, to a certain degree. You don't think they see, you know, well, some of them might see certain sharks passing by and things of that nature. I mean, like, hey, it's a shark. What's going on? You know, there might be things like that, you know. There might be, you know, and anyway, on the ice, this frozen ice, there might be certain kind of cultures. I've been calling certain kinds of cultures in regards to it, some of which has to do with winter culture. But I'm sure there's other words for it. And at times there has been an emphasis in regards to certain kind of like physical winter culture. This is a real true. But, you know, they also think in regards to a method for winter culture to be protected, means you guys need a method for water culture that means you guys need to be protected. It means you guys need it. With that being said, there's that sort of thing that says, okay, so when you get out there, all of a sudden spiritually, I feel all this clearness, this clarity, this holy smoke, I can breathe a bit because, you know, I just feel that way. And then when I got out there yesterday, there was a big, huge thing about, you know, you hit home. You spoke to some people who were out there, were able to see that sort of thing and that sort of stuff. And, you know, I spoke and did my thing, and a whole bunch of things changed. And then today, I decided to go out there again. And when I went out there again, you know, there was this sort of feeling about it. Some people were itching for a spiritual battle, some of which I'm not blaming them. I don't know who I'm blaming, really. I wasn't really looking for blame. In regards to most of the conflicts that Mr. Guys indicated, I shouldn't be looking for much blame anyway. That hasn't been my route. So me being feng shuied into blaming spirits in certain instances, you know, that should be simplistic too. I mean, to a certain extent. I mean, that's also it, because spirits don't necessarily like that sort of thing, to a certain degree, but some do. I mean, there is a large group that does. Anyway, with that being said, you know, I sort of got out there, and I read a couple documents, key documents, AJHD documents. I've been coming up with disclaimers, advocations, stuff like that. I read my, you know, master information documents. That was one, and the other one had to do with content experiences. But either way, you know, I was out there and I read them, and it vindicated a lot of different things. A lot of different things changed, and, you know, there was a certain kind of vindication in the air. But I felt I got attacked really badly, is what they said. They said they really hurt me. And I don't know in what way and why, to be honest. And those documents were liable to be read out there. Anyway, the master information one was going to be read out there anyhow. In fact, the master information one is going to be read elsewhere. And this probably more than that. This is the case of this. It's not like there shouldn't be attacked. There's certain spirits who are potentially being attacked for some of this stuff. I'm out for the reputational defense and the explanations that makes guys needed to be constructed and left where remain spirit guides indicated, the way it makes guys needed. I got to have a certain area somewhere, you know, far relate self, light self. Can you just please please. Anyway, with that being said, yeah, can you please allot a certain kind of amount of space where maybe guys needed to put a certain kind of creation in regards to those spirits that maybe guys needed in regards to this market application, and then do what maybe guys needed regarding the others that maybe guys needed. I can only do so much for certain kinds of groups of spirits, others not necessarily so. There is that sort of thing, and don't let it show so mistrust. Please, that's one of the biggest things here. We need to have trust. We need to have forgiveness. We need to have memory. We need to have preparation. We need to have coexistence. Those 5 things I'm having to be protected. Women's guys need, they matter greatly. Coexistence is everything. Putting past differences aside, really does matter greatly. I'm having for my family that makes guys need to be protected. The way makes guys need those that makes guys need to be defended. The way makes guys need the word centers in regards to protection, defense, healing, etc. For guys to be protected. The way guys needed. That stuff behind the scenes is a ripple effect. Potentially affects thousands of spirits. Helps a bunch of different people. We have powerful, loud voices down here. Physicals, other dimensionals. You got your own audio. That stuff too. Well, some of it matters. Some of it doesn't. It doesn't have to matter for what's acceptable. There's some people disagree. Agree to disagree. It's one of those things. And I do talk about large concepts and concepts getting along and stuff like that. And I know people don't like that at times. Some people don't mind it in regards to certain contexts. There is conflict management. I'm adding for conflict management to be protected. The women's guides indicate. I'm adding for there's a lot of different, resources and outlets out there in regards to multiple different things in regards to that. But either way, I felt I got attacked spiritually to a certain extent when I was out on the lake, and I need psychological healing. I think to a certain degree behind the scenes. I'm advocating for time, to be protected the way you guys need it, but I am advocating for, I don't know. It's not like that, but it is like that. I mean, that's also what I just didn't feel. Anyway, spiritually, I don't know what happened there, but maybe I didn't get attacked, and I'm hoping that I didn't. And I don't want to say it to have it have caused, but I am letting know of it, and I do not want to be harmed here. And I know that they're potentially attacking me behind the scenes right now. I can feel it at times, certain kind of turbulence. Chest area turbulence was one of them. But it hasn't been attacking me at times for what's acceptable. I just haven't felt it to a certain degree. But really, they've been decent to a certain extent. I'm just saying it's one of the tells in regards to spiritual things that I'm able to feel at times. And one of which happens to do with mentality. Mentality, big one. One of the big ones I need healing regarding potentially there. The way these guys need it. I was working with mentality today in a certain kind of way. Okay, so that would be why. This is the case of this then. This is the real true now. You don't know why. Anyway. I'm advocating for medical and healing in regards to myself, Alex James Hislop, but the way you guys indicated, I did leave up advocations, one of which happened to do with protecting myself. I'm advocating for clarifications and not for it to go back on advocations, disclaimers, testifications, etc. Guys, there's only so much that can do to a certain extent in a certain kind of time frame. I do appreciate the leeway in regards to that. At the same time, there's a reason why there's certain things. I know there's from guys are advocating for my defense and my teams that makes guys need, as well as my authority that makes guys need to vindicate themselves in the ways that makes guys need, the way makes guys needed. I and others from guys are advocating for those that makes guys needed to do what makes guys needed in regards to their defense, in regards to this content that makes guys needed, the way makes guys needed. I and others from guys give permissions in regards to those that makes guys needed, the way makes guys needed, especially in regards to this market application, etc. Guides. The way guides indicated, and in regards to the markings and advocations, etc. provided by guides, that remains guides indicated, the way guides indicated. This is Alex James Hislop and others from guides saying this, the way guides indicated. I and others from guides are advocating for the clarifications in regards to February 17, 2019, as well as February 18, 2019. That remains guides indicated to be displayed where guides indicated, the way guides indicated. I'm advocating for the ripple effect, impact, etc. Departments or guide spirits that makes guys needed that are working on my case, that makes guys needed, as well as this Alex James Hislop diary entry February 17th, 2019 to receive the resources and protection and leeway that makes guys indicated, the way makes guys indicated.